The Fiery Void project was a dream given form. Its goal, to allow people to play Babylon 5 Wars online distantly and in their own time. It's a place to hang, a third space away from home for geeks of all kinds, normies and nerds wrapped in 2,500,000 bits of spinning code, all alone on the web. It can be an odd place, but it's our best hope for fun. This is the story of a Babylon 5 Wars adaptation. The year. The name of the place is Fiery Void.
Alrighty. So folks, as you can see here, we have a little setup of our fleets. We've got our Earth Alliance ships up there in the upper left-hand corner, complete with an escort from the Minbari Federation. Over to the right, we have the vile and untrustworthy Centauri.
Wait. Hold it. Who are you?
Well, what do you want?
Why are you here? What are we? What are we doing here?
Living for?
Follow the script, man.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't thinking the term. I thought we were already in the next level of the script. Sorry. This is
Where's my drugs?
We went off the rails at 22 seconds.
Hell, I'm rolling it. I'm keeping a recording. This goes into the blooper files.
Yay,
yes.
Bloopers.
All right, we're trying this again.
All right. The year is 2026. The name of the podcast is Fiery Void. All right, now we got that part out of the way. How you doing, folks? It is Tom Gladius here. I am hosting today. For some reason, they trusted me with it. I can't imagine why they did, but you know what? You get to suffer through it along with the rest of us. Today, we are going to talk to you all a little bit about some ships. Now, you got to see the gameplay a little bit before with Fred and Jeff, but we didn't talk much about who the heck those ships belong to and what they did. So today, we're going to go into a little bit about the Big Four, the main races that you see in the show and in the game. Are there more races than that? Oh, heavens, yes. In fact, maybe one day I'll even give you a little song including all their names. But today, that's not the route we're going to go with. Instead, we're going to go ahead and talk about each one with a little bit of detail, and from there, give you an idea of their personality, their flavor, and what they can do. That said, though, I've been hogging all the time. We should probably introduce the rest of our hosts. Gentlemen, would you like to come and say something?
Oh man, this is sheer anarchy, for God's sakes. Hi, Fred here. Yeah, I'm letting someone else's drive. Last time Jeff drove, now Tom is driving us right off a cliff, so we're here as well. Expect zaniness, expect anarchy, expect really things you haven't heard before. We will still be talking Fiery Void, we will still be talking spaceships and pew-pew, but this may you might get another show than last time. Jeff?
Just remember, folks, if you're falling off a cliff, you might as well try to fly.
Oh, this is Jeff. Glad to see everyone again here. We are, just to put that in perspective, we've been probably bantering for about 45 minutes beforehand. So this is we've been tailgating or pre-gaming before the game. But no, looking forward to this one and looking forward to talking about a couple of the Big Four factions, and let's have some fun today.
I do not sound like Schwarzenegger.
Get to the Omega.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, with that in mind, I will try to focus, which is an inherently challenging thing for me. But you know what, folks? That's what makes me so chaotic. Alrighty. If we could zoom in for a bit here on our screen, let's take a look at our fleets in being. I've talked about it a little bit already, and something that might get cut out, but here we have our Earth Alliance fleet. We have an Omega-class destroyer, we have an Oracle-class scout cruiser, and then we have, well, that wedge back there, the Avenger-class heavy carrier.
Hey, I made that wedge.
Well, you know what? I can't necessarily be criticizing Belgian cheese, but with that in mind, we got a lot more to go through here. We also were lucky enough to be gifted an escort by the Minbari Federation, but we'll talk about that more when we get to the Minbari. Right now, we're going to go with our directionally challenged Earth Alliance ships because there is a flight of Star Furies, the most beautiful ships in the entire game, just to the south, escorting our Minbari fleet right there, the Star Fury Aurora. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole lot on any of this just yet because we also need to introduce our other players today. Up and to the right, we have our Centauri. Those little jagged looking things as we zoom in, you have our Centauri fleet. Now, I'm going to let Fred do all the introductions on all these. Just know that you can't trust the Centauri. They will stab you in the back and or stab you between the hearts. Moving down to the south, we have not necessarily the most trustworthy of folks, at least in the first season of the show, we have the Narn. The Narn, known for their pointy ships and quite possibly one of the most broken weapons in the game. But we'll talk about them a bit more as well when Jeff gets a chance to talk. With that said, gentlemen, is there anything you want to talk about before we move on to the Minbari? Because this is not my fleet, it's not your fleet, it's honestly Jonathan's fleet. But he's not here to talk about it today, so we are going to go ahead and just make fun of it without him.
No, I think we are good to move forward. We'll bring up the Minbari at the end here.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. Bring up the Minbari.
All right. So we've got our Minbari fleet here, the overpowered things that they are. We see our Charlin war cruiser. We see our White Star down at the bottom, the most well-known ship possibly in all of Babylon 5, outside of the Omega-class Star Destroyer. Oh my god, I called it a Star Destroyer, gentlemen. You need to go ahead and turn me in for my lobotomy. Jeez. All right, and our Tarotha assault frigate. Now, the Minbari also have a fighter that is frankly way more potent than it has any right to be, and that takes us all the way back to top here, where the Niall happens to be hanging out next to our Omega.
That was my fault, everyone. I wound up. I was trying to put this together quickly, and I wound up swapping the fighters on both sides. And we figured it was funny enough, so let's do it.
Don't tell them that. It looks natural this way. It was a great segue to bring us back to the top.
Phase 2, denial.
Yeah, denial. Exactly.
Alrighty, folks. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about these fleets. I'm going to be our guide for the Earth Alliance. The Earth Alliance is known for, well, maneuverability is not what they're known for. Earth Alliance ships are known for their very stocky structure, their brick-like appearance, decent amount of firepower, and, of course, the fact that they turn about as well as, I'd say, a Dodge Challenger, going about 90 miles an hour. I'll let you Europeans convert it on your own. Either way, let's talk about this. Earth Alliance, they are among the youngest of the races making its way into the Babylon 5 universe, and because of that, they're pretty new on the propulsion scale. The Minbari, the Centauri, they've got much better propulsion systems, so they can actually turn way better. In this case, you're basically trying to take a bathtub full of water and turn it every time you want. The Omega-class destroyer is the line ship of the Earth Alliance. It is armed quite heavily. It has 4 forward-firing heavy weapons, including our pulse cannon, which is frankly one of my favorite weapons in the game. I love the pulse weapons. It is a shorter range weapon. The major hitting power you come across here with the Earth Alliance at the long range is the heavy laser, something they happen to share with the Narn. Now, with that said, you might go, well, yeah, that's great. You've got lots of guns. That doesn't look too bad. Well, it's not, but there's one minor problem with this. The Omega-class destroyer does not turn well. I mean, you've basically got yourself a 1975 Buick station wagon with lots of guns on it, so you better hope to God whatever you're wanting to shoot at stays in front of you or immediately behind you, because otherwise you're not hitting a darn thing. But the Earth Alliance has one other thing, and this is something that's unique to the Earth Alliance. They have the Interceptors, the only race that has an entirely different system dedicated strictly to blocking and stopping incoming shots. The Interceptor, as you can see there, gives an intercept rating, which is better than just about any other intercept rating in the game. And you may wonder, well, what the heck's an intercept rating? it decreases the likelihood of a shot coming in to hit you. Beyond that, the interceptors also generate something called the E-web, the energy web, and this lowers the overall profile of the ship. So that makes this thing that's a better part of, what, a mile and a half long, a little bit harder to hit. And that's how Earth Alliance ships can actually avoid getting clobbered all the darn time. That said, the Omega is near the top of the line you're going to get for the Earth Alliance. So let's take a look at something that isn't quite so hot.
Hey, Tom, can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
I'm just thinking about something. Like, imagine if we would take off the E-web. If we would... The Earth Alliance does not have the E-web anymore. One, would that make the ships a lot more cheap? Two, would they suck? Is the E-web vital for their tier 1-ness?
I wouldn't say they would suck, but they'd be a lot more easy to kill. Because Earth Alliance ships, they're potent, but as you can see, based on where their weapons are located, without having the E-web to decrease the profile, the likelihood of losing those heavy weapons means you're just looking at the broadsides of light weapons. And against ships such as a Primus or a Charlin, then you're not going to necessarily be in a good spot.
So training wheels, actually.
Well, I mean, it is their first foray into space. Give them a break.
It's my job to poke holes in other races, so this is one of my first poke.
That's okay. I mean, the Centauri are busy poking holes in themselves, so... Or in their emperors. Yeah. With that in mind, though, the E-web is a very useful tool, and the interceptors are absolutely fantastic. If you've got somebody shooting missiles at you, the Earth Alliance ships are probably better at intercepting them than just about anybody you're going to come across. With that in mind, let's take a look at a ship that I would call probably the worst of the Earth Alliance, and that is that cheese wedge behind the Omega. This is the Avenger carrier. Those of you unfamiliar with naval warfare, a carrier is known to, unsurprisingly, carry stuff. What does it carry? Fighters. Lots and lots of fighters, which sounds great. I mean, the Star Fury is a fantastic fighter, but here's the problem. One Avenger can only carry 48 fighters. Now, that's a lot. But here's the thing. That Omega, just below it, that can carry 24. So if you have two Omegas, you've got the same carrying capacity as the Avenger. And as you can tell by looking at this thing, it does not have nearly the weaponry, nearly the structure, nearly the armor. It is not anything compared to an Omega. So I would dare say this is the worst ship in the Earth Alliance. Did it have its value at some point? Yeah, it turns worse than an Omega. Can you imagine that, folks? My gosh. It's like the helmsman on the Titanic. So, Avenger carrier, that's a no-go, folks, unless you just want to take lots of fighters.
I'm gonna jump in here real quick, and I'm gonna provide a counterpoint here. Now, Tom, you're running the EA, and here at this point, I'm a big EA fan. I actually like the Avenger. I like taking it. It's for me. I like taking it because of all those fighters. And again, I love flying fighters, things like that. So if I have a fleet that's mostly fighters, I'm okay with that. I find the Avenger kind of it's one of those things for either a smaller match or if you're doing a really big engagement. It's kind of useful to just kind of multiply the number of fighters with you. But to your point, you're absolutely right. You put two Omegas together and get 48 fighters as well, plus two ships that fight a lot better.
Exactly. I've never seen you take one, Jeff. Never, ever.
Yeah, I haven't had much chance to use it recently. I'll have to fix that. Next time I'll take an Avenger out for a spin.
Now, that said, if there is an updated version of the Avenger officially, that might be better. But what you see here, no. Now, if we're looking mid-tier, let's go ahead and take a look at that little ship right between the two. And that is our Oracle-class scout cruiser. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go into the complexities of electronic warfare in this game system, but it is a very important part of the game. And this scout is honestly better armed than most. Most scouts do not have the ability to shoot at other ships other than maybe some fighters. This thing's got some firepower. It's got some lasers, it's got a missile launcher, and so it's not helpless. But the problem is, if you're using a ship or its potent sensors, you need to have those sensors. And in this case, this ship has to have two different units for that. And you may wonder, well, what's the big deal? Well, here's the thing. You get a lucky shot on the bow of this thing, well, guess what? You just cut this thing's sensor potency down by 40%. So it is neat, but it is not great. There's a much better version of this ship that exists in the later era, and I'm not going to talk about that right now because, frankly, I'm talking way longer than I probably should be right off the bat. But it's a ship that's got some power to it, but frankly, your points are better suited elsewhere, in my opinion.
How many points? 600, right?
I think that's about what it runs, about 600 points. And frankly, for 600 points, I would just as soon take a couple Tethys-class police cutters. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I'll say, and for those of you who don't know what that is, don't worry, that will come up at some point in the future, I am sure.
I think when you were talking about points, I think that brings up an interesting element that both the Oracle and the Avenger are what you would consider support units. They are not necessarily going to be, when you're playing the game, they're probably not a unit that you just say, okay, I'm going to take this ship and I'm going to build my fleet around it. These are ships that are designed they're force multipliers. An Oracle by itself is not going to do a whole lot of good for you. But if you have a good-sized force, having an Oracle can be a really good benefit to your fleet because it can help you with targeting, it can help you with defense, those types of things. Fiery Void, you do have a little bit of that where there are some units that they're not really good on their own, but they definitely add a lot to a squadron or to a fleet of ships. So I throw that out there.
No, and that's a valid point because we're talking about best and worst, right? And overall fleet structure. And the thing is, even before we started pulling this up, one of the things, looking at just the Earth Alliance fleet, it's hard to find a ship that's truly terrible. I mean, I feel like we were stretching it by going with the Avenger here because even the Avenger has value. 48 Star Furies is nothing to sneeze at. So it's a matter of what by itself could stand up to other things and things like that. What fits the overall profile, what fits the overall style that you're looking for. And that's one of the things you need to remember, folks, when you're doing this, is the fact that what you take can be way more potent than you think based on how you play.
I've got an idea, by the way. It just crept into my head. We never, in the years that we have been playing, I think, ever did a Battle of the Scouts, where we take 5,000 points and you can only take Scouts. And then see who's the better one.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, let's set that up. Not now, but I'm going to set it up. Battle of the Scouts. Let's go.
I like it. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Now, to round out the Earth Alliance fleet, before I hand this off to somebody else, let's talk about their fighter. Frankly, I feel like their fighter is probably one of the most visually iconic ships in all of Babylon 5. Because it's something you notice right when you watch the show. I know some people might look at it as, it's just an X-Wing, but different. Well, no. One, it's cooler than an X-Wing. I will die on that hill. But also, one of the cool things about the Star Fury is that it gives the Earth Alliance something that punches way above their weight than you'd expect within the overall fleet structures of the game. Because Earth Alliance, they're young, but the Star Fury is a beast of a fighter. It can go toe-to-toe with just about any fighter in the game. It can do damage to ships. It's maneuverable. And let's face it, if you've ever watched the show, which ideally most of you have, They've got some of the coolest maneuvers you see in all of science fiction, and frankly, they're the reason why you see ships in shows like Battlestar Galactica and The Expanse do all sorts of fun stuff with their thrusters because Babylon 5 pioneered that with the Star Fury. It is a fantastic fighter, and it only gets better as you go into the more upgraded versions of it. It's beautiful. I love it. It's functional, and I think Fred is having an aneurysm.
It's a jacuzzi. It's a jacuzzi with wings. If you're saying that the other ships are bathtubs, the analogy is right. This is a jacuzzi with wings. It has no nose, for God's sake. Give it a nose. It's Voldemort.
I love the Star Fury. I mean, it is.
Sorry.
I love it. As an EA player, I love the Star Fury. You're outvoted, Fred. 2-1.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Fred.
That's okay.
No, it's Tom. I agree with you on that one. The Fury is from the standpoint of the visuals and where it comes from. It is, as I said, I overused the term in the first podcast of iconic. I mean, in any sort of sci-fi discussion of, I mean, science fiction fighters, this Star Fury is always in that conversation.
Definitely.
Would you say that okay, I'm going to summarize the Earth Alliance. They're flying bricks. Their guns have guns, so it's guns all over the place.
Maybe that's why I like it so much as an American.
Yeah, probably. They're low tech, but they have nifty gadgets.
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're easy to start with, if I may say so.
Easy to start with. I'd say that, yeah. Once you figure out how to get them to turn, you can be dangerous.
You just pivot. Every time. All the time, every time. Earth players, pivot. Pivot.
Yes.
do it.
My very first match where I got an Omega going backwards.
It's like, oops. No, yeah, I'm with you. You guys are absolutely right. The Earth Alliance is a very good it's a forgiving faction to fly, particularly for new players, because there's no subtlety with it. I mean, you have lots of armament. They defend themselves well, and they can teach you several of the aspects of the game: how to use fighters, how to use ship weaponry, things like that. So they're a very good, balanced early faction for people to learn.
All right. Give me that microphone. I'm talking Centauri here.
Okay. Of course the Centauri just come in and take over.
We don't take. It was ours to begin with, actually. So, well, the Centauri. I am going to not like Tom. Tom is actually approaching this from a very romantic point of view. Like we are humans. We are Earth Alliance. We're Americans. Earth Alliance feels American, so this is what we do and what we fly. No, we are doing this differently, and I'm going to talk about the Centauri in an aesthetic
To be
way.
fair, I am an Oriente player.
Yeah. Well, you go kaboom a lot, I know, but we are talking aesthetics here. Like we are talking color, we are talking art, we are talking splendor. I mean, if you look at
Decadence.
Centauri vessels, yeah, decadence, purple passion, it's there. So they are pretty ships. I mean, if you watch the original Babylon 5 series, and you see an Earth cruiser go by, you go like, whoa, that's a big brick. And if you see a Primus go by, or a Demos, or a Fortune, you go like, that actually is a pretty ship. So the aesthetics do matter. Now, open the Primus for me, would you? There. I am taking this ship as a first to talk about because it has some of the weapons that the Centauri use a lot. Centauri are they're nimbler than the other races, except the Minbari maybe. They have good technology, they have good sensors, they have good maneuverability. They can dodge, they can weave, they're pretty fast, but they also tend to be glass cannons a bit. So they don't take damage the way Earth or Narn actually do. If we get hit, well, we tend to go pop very easily. The other problem is, and I'm going to talk that in a little bit, we tend to have a lot of weapons in the front. Our noses are, well, fragile. Not as Primus, though. He has no heavy weapons in the front. He only has a bunch of twin arrays. I said it right this time. Twin arrays.
That was me.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I know, but in my mind, it's twin arrays. I'm saying it right. So this is like the quintessential weapon for the Centauri. It's short range. It's small. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it fires twice. It's good against fighters. It's good against smaller ships. But when used in large numbers, it can easily pop a larger one. Pop a larger one doesn't seem right, but I'm sticking to it. So in a tournament battle I did last week against a Narn Dreadnought, a Bintak, it was faced by I think about 20 twin arrays, and it exploded the Bintak. So, and that's a huge Dreadnought capital. So when used in large numbers, it can do a lot of damage, but it's short-ranged. Now, fun fact, in the first ever version of Babylon 5 Wars, the tabletop version, these were longer range. They had twice the range of the ones we have now. So the twin array actually could do a certain amount of damage from a distance as well. So that was a little bit overpowered, we noticed. So they toned it down a bit. Now, these are short range, but actually the Centauri like to do most of our damage from a reasonable range and long range even. So that's a little bit safer for us so we don't get blown up as well. And the battle laser is actually a very good weapon to do that with. It's long ranged. It doesn't do a lot as much damage as the heavy laser the Narn and the Narn and EA have. But its firing time, its upload time, its shooting time is shorter, so it can fire every 3 turns and not every 4. It can also pierce, but if you pierce, and well, that lets you do a little bit less damage and makes targeting a little more difficult. For the rest, this is actually the quintessential Centauri ship. It has good sensors, 10 sensors. It's fairly agile. It can turn better than most capitals. It can hit you long range. It can hit you short range. The nose is, well, if you lose the nose, no problem. You still have the larger weapons in the side pods, no problem. It does have no weapons in the aft, so that might be a problem. If your twin arrays, well, your arcs to the back are gone, that's a problem. But mostly Centauri ships fly in numbers, so they can protect each other. Gentlemen, some comments on the mighty Primus?
It really is a good ship. I agree with you on that one. I think what the Primus demonstrates, though, and again, you'll get into this as you talk about the other ships. The Centauri are not. They don't use brute force like the Earth Alliance does, or to a degree that the Narn do, and they're a little bit more subtle. They have to plan their attacks a little bit more because you can't take a return. You don't want to take a return shot as much as like an Earth Alliance can have absorb hits. So that makes the Centauri a little bit more subtle to fly. I'll build on that point once you talk about a few of the other ships as well.
Well, one of the things that I'll say about the Centauri with the Primus in particular is the frequency at which the battle laser can fire makes you a lot more likely just to take a random pot shot than if you're using a heavy laser, because that 3-turn cooldown is way better than the 4-turn cooldown of the heavy. It means you can just do a rotational fire of all of your lasers if you want to, and just keep up a constant barrage. Whereas with the Earth Alliance, that isn't quite a possibility.
No, true. You can do left side fire, right side fire. 1 turn you don't, and then you go to the left side again. So the Primus is often used as artillery to really stay back and pepper the opposition with battle lasers. Marson, one of our most prestigious players, he actually uses the Primus as a short-range vessel. He actually charges in with the Primus and lets all the twin arrays do the damage. That's a very cool approach. Not the most standard approach, but it works as well. Let's check out the demos. Now, those of you who know the ships only from the series, they go like, hey, that's not a demos, that's a Vorchan. Well, there's a little bit of an issue there, because from the original hull that's been used in the series, we have two ships, a Vorchan and a demos. One is a little bit smaller, one is a little bit larger. They both are the same class here, they both are heavy combat vessels. But I believe that the nerds out there, and I call myself one of them, we know that a Vorchan is about 300, 400 meters across, and a Demos is twice of that. So the Demos is larger. It also has more weapons, but they're both heavy combat vehicles. Now, the Demos is, in my account, one of the best Centauri ships out there. It's very agile, it's very fast, it has extra power which you can use to boost your engine just a little bit more even. It has short range power in the plasma accelerator, which is versatile as well because it can actually shoot every turn, granted with a lot less power and damage, but in a pinch it can do a little bit more every turn. The best weapon, of course, is the heavy array. So I talked about the twin array. This is the heavy array, the larger version of it. It can fire every turn, twice every turn. It has two of them, so that's 4 shots every turn. And it does substantial damage. So imagine having two of these, two demos. It can make short work of any capital vessel when not careful. The only problem... Oh, there's also ballistic torpedoes. We have ballistics as well to give a little bit damage at a greater range. I've never been a fan of the ballistic torpedo. I mean, I always found it to do. It's not very accurate. I feel it does little damage. It can do a spread to fighters to maybe, if you're lucky, take out a whole fighter flight. But I never actually did that. I made a variant of a certain ship with 4 of those on it to have an alternative to the Dakar, which we will see in a few moments, and that does that does more damage than. So one ballistic torpedo is nice, but it doesn't do a lot. Still, I have seen it win some battles in the past because sometimes all you need is one extra damage, and that it does provide that way. No, the big problem with the demos is when you lose the nose, you lose the vehicle. So when you charge in and, well, you get shot back and you lose the nose, you can scrap the complete hull of it, the complete ship, because there are no weapons or systems to the back of it, so, or on the primary. So a no-nose demos is 575 points lost. So, any pointers, people?
I mean, the Demos is probably one of the best examples of a glass cannon you're going to have in all the Centauri, because it's got a lot of firepower, but all that firepower is in one place, on the nose. You take out that bow, and it's useless. Or, another big challenge you're going to have with this thing is it's great as long as nothing gets behind it. Now, you may wonder, well, it's fast, it's maneuverable, it can go where it wants to. That's true, but fighters are more maneuverable, and I can tell you for a fact from experience that a group of Ferrazis from the Narn can definitely tear one of these little buggers up.
Yeah.
If you get behind it.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about this... Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted you guys. I apologize.
No problem.
I think what's really exciting about the demos, and I say this from someone who has had to face way too many of them recently, it is you never face one. They work absolutely viciously in a pack of 2 or 3. Because then you can have one try to, I mean, if one loses initiative or something like that, maybe it takes a more defensive stance to help cover the back of the other 2 because of those wide arcs. They're cheap. They bring a lot of firepower. It's short range, but it's a lot of firepower. And they work very, very well as a pack. And I think that goes into the point that I was making earlier that I said I'd come back to. The Centauri have a very interesting dynamic where they can have this very subtle long-range sniper setup, and they can couple that with ships that are designed as brutal short-range brawling ships. And I think that's a very interesting part with the Centauri fleet. That can also make them a little difficult to learn how to operate as a new player, because if you don't fully understand those dynamics, they can be a little awkward to maneuver and figure out how to use effectively.
That brings me to let me just reach down and wear my other hat, my negativity hat. So let's focus on the mighty Eleutherian. Okay, well, the Centauri have a large number of ships. They have good ships, they have exquisite ships, they have medium ships. But like Jeff said, I've been playing the Centauri for a long time. And the training wheels are gone. I mean, and other players will certainly object to my reasoning, but I have always had the idea that if you play Earth, you can make some mistakes and bounce back from that. If you play Narn, you can make mistakes and bounce back from that. Their ships are, for their costs, very forgiving. Now, flying the Centauri isn't forgiving. If you make a mistake, that can cost you the match. So you really have to know what you're doing. It's flying a scalpel instead of actually flying a hammer. It's more in that direction. Now, I also find that a lot of ships in the Centauri fleet have been made or constructed on days where the original people of Agents of Gaming were stoned or drunk, because they're not made well. It's like, what on earth were you thinking when you made this monstrosity? Like, take the Eleutherian. It's a bombardment bomber. Fine, you have some twin arrays. Fine, okay, and you have 2 ballistic torpedoes. In arcs that, well, you can shoot one or you can shoot the other. If you're center line, you can shoot both. Yeah, cool. Well, if you choose to shoot those ballistic torpedoes full spread, you only have your twin arrays to protect you, and that's not going to help you. So this ship is more than 600 points, 650. It's more than the Oracle Tom was bitching about, by the way. And it's even rare, so you cannot take more of it. If you want to take a second one, you have to take 8 Altarians or 7 Altarians to take a second one. I mean, this ship is about as useless as they get. I mean, if you would draw a database of every ship played by every Centauri player since the beginning of Fiery Void, you will see that the Eleutherian has been flown 4 or 5 times, and that's by me, I guess. And that's just because I want to give it a shot. I want to give it a chance. And it's not the only ship with this problem, but because there are other ships like the Versace, for instance, that you go like, I mean,
Isn't that a bread?
In certain parts of Italy, it could be a bread, I guess. The Secundus, by the way, where it has massive amount of firepower, but it's contained in a very fragile nose, and it's 925 points. So some of these are well constructed, and you think like, why did they do this? It's like there's an in-game reason, because the houses of the Centauri, they fight against each other. They have contracts on certain tips and ships and certain weapon types, and it's all political. That's fine, but I mean, it also feels a lot like battling, going up the hill while others are going down the hill. So that's a little gripe I have. So what I actually did was make a house that gets rid of all that problems and all those problems, and take every ship and make it efficient. And look at these fighters. They're originally the Rutarian fighters, which are good fighters. They have stealth, they have iron bolts. There are 450 points for a flight, so they're fairly costly. And they can only be taken by one or two Centauri ships. So, but look at that shape. I mean, it's glorious. It's vibrant.
It's Kilrathi.
No, please, Jeff, put your Star Fury next to it, please, if you can. Is that possible to have two windows? Yeah, there you go. Come on.
See, I knew this was coming, so I set it up properly. Look at this.
Come
Planning.
on, there's no contest. I mean, one is a flying bathtub, the other is a splendorous machine of perfection.
One looks like decadent, unnecessary fluff, and one looks like a practical machine of war. To quote Colonel O'Neill, this is a weapon of terror designed to intimidate your enemies and scare them. This is a weapon of war designed to kill your enemies.
It's pretty.
O'Neill with one L, not you.
All I have to say is that I'm very happy that I was taught how to actually do the graphics, to kind of to help repaint the graphics. So that's my excited part.
Yeah, you actually made that, so I'm very very glad. I'm very thankful. So yeah, people, that was the Centauri. Love to fly, my favorite race, but there's a learning curve. On to races with no learning curve.
No learning. No, we're going to jump in here to now the Narn regime. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've seen them as they're kind of set up a bit of as an antagonist early on in the show, then they kind of more of a their arc changes throughout the course of the show. I'm going to start off with the Jaquan cruiser. And what's interesting about this is that the Narn are very much a generalist fleet. So we've talked about the Earth Alliance, we've talked about the Centauri. The Narn have the ability to they kind of fit somewhere in the middle. They have strong firepower, which is good. They have some long range capabilities with the heavy lasers. They have short range capabilities. They also have pulse cannons. In fact, the Earth Alliance got a lot of its some of its technology, particularly the heavy lasers, directly from the Narn. The Narn are also more maneuverable than the Earth Alliance, but in some cases not as maneuverable as the Centauri. At the same time, too, the Narn they're more durable than the Centauri units, but they have less durability than the Earth units. And we see all of that wrapped up into the Jaquan cruiser here. When we look at this, it is it has a great amount of short-ranged weapons. So it has great short-range defenses against fighters, against other ships. And that's split between the twin array, which we've seen with Centauri, and also the small version of the heavy pulse cannon, the light pulse cannon. I used to not care for the light pulse cannon as much because I'm like, it's very short range. It's -2 per hex, or again, on the tabletop, -10 per hex when we're using percentages in Fiery Void. I'm thinking, I don't really care for it. I like a standard. Give me a standard particle beam with that nice -5 per hex range. And really, over time, I've learned to appreciate the light pulse cannon because if you can get in close and get a good to hit roll, this thing can absolutely wipe flights of fighters out, particularly if they're smaller fighters.
Yeah, speaking of somebody who's used it on an Earth Alliance ship, oh my gosh. There is a tiny Earth Alliance ship that is a beast with these things.
Yes. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. The other fun thing about the Narn is that, again, their sensors are also kind of in between Earth and Centauri. So it gives the Narn a lot of versatility, a lot of capabilities in what they can do. And as Fred alluded to, they are a very good generalist fleet. That means you can pretty much build a fleet with just about any of their units And none of those fleets are going to be particularly bad. You don't have an Elotarian-style vessel where you're like, why on earth is this here? Most Narn units can be effective. Now, that being said, they may be effective, but they may not excel in any one particular mission or mission profile, which is fine.
Except for one ship.
Yeah, and we'll get to that guy in a moment here. The big issue with the Jaquan is that it's a heavy cruiser. It is probably the lightest armed of the big four heavy cruisers. It only has 2 heavy weapons, 2 heavy lasers up front. They have good arcs, which is nice. They're forward facing, which is helpful as well. The big disadvantage though is that they're both in the nose. And so a Jaquan has to be extremely careful how it presents its nose to its opponents, because if you blow off the nose, you lose your heavy weapons. That being said, if you look at these structure blocks, 70 points of structure on the sides, 70 in the front, the Narn Jaquan can take an absolute beating. These things are very difficult to take out. The other very unique Narn weapon is the energy mine. And this is a very unique weapon amongst the Narn. It is, the best way to think of it is space artillery. You launch it at a hex. As long as it hits the hex, it doesn't like scatter or fizzle, things like that. It then explodes. It damages everything in the hex that it lands in and the surrounding 6 hexes around it. That makes it really, really effective for just kind of causing damage. What makes it scary, particularly for fighters, is that every unit in the hex takes the same amount of damage. And that's where you kind of get into some of the, where people kind of complain about the energy mine in terms of a balance standpoint. Because if I have 100 fighters and 1 energy mine hits in the same hex as 100 fighters, you will blow up 100 fighters. Because it's kind of like this infinite damage curve. Even if you have 100 fighters and you hit 1 hex next to it, so let's say here's a fighter flight and I hit 1 hex next to it, that will do 10 damage to every fighter in all those surrounding hexes. And even for heavy fighters with good armor, large structure, 10 damage is enough to threaten them for a dropout roll. Meaning, hey, it can cause the fighter to take so much damage that it cannot continue the fight. Or if it's a small fighter, it can actually wipe out. It can still wipe out entire flights of fighters, even doing that splash damage. So the energy mine is a very potent and capable weapon within the Narn regime. It is controversial to some degree in within the fandom, and we'll talk about that with one other ship. But typically, if it's in kind of smaller numbers, it's pretty well balanced in that respect. It's fun to take. I like using it to try to keep your opponent off guard, because they always have to kind of pay attention. Okay, are there energy mines in play? Are there energy mines firing this turn or not? So the Jaquan cruiser, it's a nice cruiser. It has good firepower, good durability, but it's probably the weakest armed of all of the big four. And in some ways, you see that with all of the variants that the Jaquan spawns. They replace
very cheap, by the way.
Yes, it is a very cheap cruiser, and that is a good point. That it's a very cheap cruiser.
It's about what, 300 less than an Omega?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 625, I guess.
So I don't want to. I'm not trying to downplay it. It is a very good ship. You just have to understand that one Jaquan is not going to charge up to an Omega and go one-on-one with it and likely look good with for it. 2 Jaquans will go up against an Omega and they will come out. One Jaquan will probably be dead, but 1 Omega will be dead as well.
Yeah.
The other nice thing too is it carries 12 fighters. So again, as a fighter player, it's a cheap cruiser that gets you 2 flights of fighters, and the fighters are good as well. So speaking of that, let's go into another kind of show unit, the Frozzy Fighter. Again, as I like to say, I'm a big fighter proponent. I love taking fighters with any faction. And so if there's a halfway decent fighter with that faction, I will fly that faction. What makes the Frozzy interesting is that it's a potent unit with good firepower, not so much maneuverability. It's probably one of the lower capabilities in terms of fighter maneuverability, particularly amongst all of the big 4 fighters. It has good armor on the sides, so it's designed to kind of keep people from trying to hit it from the side. But really where it truly excels is in the gun. This, if you look at the damage, a couple rows down, it can do between 6 to 11 damage. So on the tabletop, that was a 1d6 plus 5 gun. That is outside of specialty weapons. This is the absolute hardest hitting fighter gun out there. That's commonly available. So a Frozzy Flight, if it can get into position, if it can avoid the sentry interceptors from the Centauri or another opponent, these fighters will absolutely cause damage to your opposing ships. If you have Frozzies on the board, your opponent has to pay attention to them. And that is, I think, another one of their strengths. They may not be the most maneuverable, they may not be the most durable if you hit them head on, but they absolutely will cause damage to anything they target. If they hit a fighter, they will blow a fighter out of the sky. They're probably one of the few fighters that can truly challenge a Star Fury, even a Nile, to potentially knock them out of the sky with one shot, which makes them very, very potent. And that helps too, because now your Jaquan cruiser, which has to be careful, you don't want to expose the nose or things like that. Suddenly, if those Frozzies are getting into the fight, now suddenly your opponent has to start worrying about the Frozzies and the Jaquan, and that's a great 1-2 combination. We don't have it here, but the Narn also have a kind of another fighter called the Gorith. Now that's kind of a more of an interceptor fighter, and in a larger battle, Goriths are pretty useful to have because they can help keep Centauri sentries off of your Frozzies and things like that. So lots of fun there. So those two units here, but I will go to probably what is the single best unit in the Narn arsenal, and that is the Thentis frigate. Now, is this the biggest unit in the game? No. Is it the most heavily armed unit in the game? Again, no. But this, the Thentis, it is cheap, it is extremely maneuverable, but it has great firepower. It can operate, it has 2 medium lasers, so kind of the smaller cousin of the heavy laser, which has good range. If you look at that, you can see the arc on that. It's a 180-degree arc. That is a massive arc. It also comes with 4 of these twin arrays, and then kind of a unique Narn weapon, the Burst Beam. Burst Beam's kind of so-so. It's good for forcing a fighter to automatically drop out. Basically, you hit it with like an EM burst, if you will, or it can cause systems on an opposing ship to drop out. It also has great sensors, 7 sensors, huge maneuverability, and that's what makes the Thentis such a great ship in the Narn Force. As we talked about the Demos being great in a wolf pack, the Thentis is the same way. Take 2 or 3 of these, and these guys will absolutely dominate what they're doing. Within the kind of the community, the Thentis is kind of considered, while it is not a Minbari White Star, it's not at the same scale. Because of its cost and its flexibility, it is often talked about as one of the best medium combat vessels in the game. And I think
the heavy Thentis actually the best ship the Narn have.
Yes, and what that does, that replaces the burst beams with 2 medium pulse cannons, and that is absolutely a stellar armament. The only thing that holds back the heavy Thentis is that you can only take 1 for every 2 regular Thentis you have. But even then, that is not, in terms of limitations or drawbacks, that's a very minor one. And Fred, I 100% agree with you on that. So those are kind of my favorite units so far within the Narn. Again, the Jaquan and the Frozzy those are show units. They're very nice. They're functional, they're usable, which I like. Now, let's talk about probably, I don't want to call it the worst unit in the game, but it is a very controversial unit. You're hearing all of us roll. Yes, unless you are flying it, it is the most hated. And that is the Dadkar missile frigate or bombardment frigate. The reason why this has a number of issues is this is typically the same size as a Thentis frigate. So it's a medium combat vessel. And if you look over to the right here, you'll see that there's a lot of red on the screen, representing lots and lots of weaponry on this ship. These are all considered medium mounts. It has 6 energy mines, which have great range, things like that. Again, that's space artillery. It has 6 ion torpedoes. We haven't talked about this, but this is another very long-ranged weapon, very effective when used in bulk. And the thing is, the Dadkar has in bulk both of these. It has nothing else. It has no defensive weapons for like twin arrays. It has no other direct firepower, but it is a small unit. It's difficult to hit, and it never has to get close to an opponent because it can engage from 50 hexes out. Pretty much, it can sit on one side of the board and just laugh at you and keep lobbing stuff at you.
Gentlemen, do not fly this.
Which is basically all it does.
Yeah, that's all it does. It is a artillery support unit. If this thing is getting close to the enemy, it's in trouble. This thing will attract every single weapon, every single fighter, every single ship. They're trying to target to kill this thing because as we've said, the energy mine has that kind of infinite damage. If you have lots of units in one hex, it will do the same damage to every unit in the hex. It will also be able to, it can put a lot of ion torpedoes on one target at one time. And with the way the mechanics of the game work, it gets very difficult to intercept lots of ballistics coming at you at one time. And so it's one of those things. There's one of the other players in the game has mentioned one of the reasons that makes this kind of a controversial unit is the fact that these are all kind of considered medium weapon mounts. And it has 12 of them. There are very few ships, even capital ships, with that type of firepower. And so if you want to take this kind of a literal sense, you could actually put 12 medium pulse cannons on here if you wanted to kind of play that game, if you will. And again, I'm not saying there's a unit out there, but if you were to do that mental exercise going, these have, this takes 4 power to use. The iron torpedo takes 4 power to use. These are medium amounts. I can put 12 medium pulse cannons on there and have them all charged. And that's where this ship is generally considered a very broken unit within the community. That being said, it is an official unit. Typically what happens is within the community, because it's such a because of the feelings behind the ship, typically a Narn player will say, hey, I'm taking Narn, but I'm only going to limit myself to a couple of E-mines, or I'm not going to take a DAG car. Or you might get an opponent say, hey, I'm willing to play whoever you want to take, but if you take the Narn, don't take a DAG car. It is pretty much one of the only units in the game that has that level of specificity in terms of whether opponents want to face it or not. So it's very, very good in its role, and that's kind of what makes it a little bit that's what kind of gives the controversy behind it there. But in recap, the Narn fleet is a lot of fun. My brother is a huge Narn player. I often was playing Earth Alliance, and they're very good. Their units are often cheap. We have a couple of units. Since we're only looking at a few here, there's another one called the Rongoth Destroyer. It's a heavy combat vessel, not much to it, but it carries 2 heavy pulse cannons, and it's pretty maneuverable. And that's kind of the theme of the Narn fleet. Good maneuverability, relatively cheap cost, good firepower, and for the most part, a level of durability beyond what you see maybe on the Centauri, but not quite the level of the Earth Alliance.
Jeff, if you would, what would be the worst Narn ship out there?
Oh, the worst Narn ship out there. Man, that's a good question. The Taloth, I would say, the show Taloth is kind of a rough one to take because it's a fun ship to take. It's not going to be a good one to take by itself. But if it's in a fleet, it can kind of, it's slow, it's ponderous, it's very narrowly arced. Its heavy weapons have narrow arcs. It's primarily heavy plasma cannons, which are short-ranged. But it can carry a lot of fighters. It can carry up to 24 fighters if you convert the assault shuttles to fighters. It's cheap. So there's that too. So I don't know if it's the worst, but it's definitely kind of a unit out there. Yeah, I think they're a lot like the Earth Alliance. There's not really a bad ship amongst the Narn. So yeah, I'll stick with that. That's not necessarily. I don't think there's necessarily a worst ship per se, or at least none that immediately comes to mind. I would generally fly any of the Narn units, maybe let some more willingly than others. So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. If we go to the last one of the big four, maybe
here we go.
We should each take one, or what?
Sure.
Lead us off, Fred or Tom.
Okay.
I'm taking the Toyota.
Okay, I'll go with Charlene here.
Peace.
All right, folks. if you've watched Babylon 5, you have seen this ship, the Charlin Warcruiser. Now, thing to remember about the Minbari, folks, is they're better than you. They know they're better than you. They'll make sure you know they're better than you. They'll be better than you at everything you do, probably. And then when you try to punch them, you can't punch them back because they won't let you. That is the advantage of the Minbari. They're ancient, they're old, and they have no body hair. It's weird. So, with that in mind, they have ships like the Charlin Warcruiser. This thing is an absolute monster. As you can see, it has a ton of weapons. It has a total of 4 forward-firing neutron lasers. These things hit almost as hard as a heavy laser. They fire as frequently as a battle laser, and they have the range of a battle laser. It is absurdly good. Now, you'll notice they don't have a lot of variety in weapons, though, because unlike the Earth Alliance, it doesn't have a secondary heavy weapon. They just use a lot of what are called fusion cannons. These things are mean. They're more powerful than the particle beams. They're more powerful than most twin arrays, and they've got better range than a twin array. And the rate at which these things are on these ships, they are absolutely monstrous. But this is not the biggest strength of the Minbari. Oh, heavens no. It's the fact that their sensor package is crazy. They've got 12 in their EW department, which is about the same as the most current modern scout vessel of the Earth Alliance. And then, more importantly, they have a jammer. That jammer, folks, you cannot lock onto a Minbari ship. If you shoot a Minbari ship, every single thing you do will have double the range because what you're using can't get a lock. You can put your sensors on it. It can get easier to hit it, but you will never, ever get a lock unless you're using what are called advanced sensors, which are only available to the first ones and a handful of other races. So this is the reason why, no matter what the Earth Alliance did during the Earth-Minbari War, they could not do a thing to the Minbari, because the Minbari could just, sit back and camp while the Earth Alliance slowly moved towards them in their bricks and got shredded. They're absolutely monstrous.
Funny enough, I made a small spreadsheet the other day because I had 2 hours of nothing to do, and I took the dreadnoughts of the big 4. I took a Charlene. It's from now on it's a Charlene. I took a Charlene, a Bintak from the Narn, an Octurian from the Centauri, and a Warlock from Earth, and took every little bit of data I could get from those vessels, and it came that actually the Charlene was undergunned compared to the other vessels. Compared to the other vessels, it was undergunned. So yeah, it has a lot of short-range fusion cannons. It has no medium range, and it only has 6 long range. So I was going like, it doesn't have as much structure as the other ones. It has even less armor than the Bintak or the Octurian. It has less weapons, and it's about 600 points more expensive. Why do we fear the Charlene as much if it's actually underpowered compared to the other dreadnoughts?
I'll be happy to jump in for that one.
Jump.
The first one is, as Tom mentioned, it's the jammer. The jammer is the great equalizer. It makes it so you simply can't. It's not that you get a low chance to hit, or it's not making your shots miss. It's making it so that you can't shoot unless you get up close. The other big advantage, and we haven't talked about this before, is the type of propulsion system that the Charlene has, or all the Minbari have. They have what's called gravitic drives. So for most of all the ships that we've been talking about here, Earth Alliance, Narn, and Centauri, you would say, we're going a little bit of science here, they use Newtonian physics. One object at motion stays in motion until acted upon by an external force. So that's how a lot of these ships operate. You thrust through your main thrusters, you accelerate, and then you just keep moving in a straight line until you turn and things like that. The Minbari, with their gravitic drives, they can do all kinds of funky maneuvers. They can maneuver out of their side thrusters. They can pivot and keep maneuvering out of different sets of thrusters and things like that. So these units can, and what I like to do is, if I'm starting a battle with a Minbari, I will pivot myself. So I will pivot so that I'm initially kind of turning away, or I will turn my ship so that I'm moving somewhat away from my opponent, but then pivot my guns back to my opponent. So instead of having to close directly, I can kind of close at an oblique angle, so that I'm not actually moving towards you, but I'm always keeping my guns trained on you. And that helps the Minbari keep the range open much longer than you normally would be able to do so. Because they can maneuver out of their side thrusters there and things like that by accelerating, decelerating, it opens up maneuvering, like we mentioned. Pivoting is much more forgiving for these units. The problem with pivoting with normal units is that once you make that pivot, particularly if you've gone beyond, if you like pivot 120 degrees, suddenly you can't slow down until you complete that pivot all the way 180 degrees to use your main thrusters or things like that. So if you get a thruster blown off, you're in a lot more trouble. A gravitic ship doesn't have that fear, or because you have to lose a lot more thrusters before you can't do it. So they may not be the most maneuverable in terms of I can turn fast and things like that, but they can do things that other units cannot do in the maneuverability department. And that allows them to use those 4 forward-facing neutron lasers much more effectively.
So is this the most feared Minbari ship, or is that the White Star?
We're also forgetting the Shargati, by the way, their actual dreadnought.
Oh yeah, true. But that's 2,400 points, I guess.
Yes, that is the other Minbari drawback, is that the Minbari start becoming like the first ones in the game, in the sense that their individual units are very, very expensive. And since the game is designed to be, you want to have a balanced, fair game, so it's one side is facing the other side with equal points. You're not reenacting the Earth Minbari War, where it was an Olympus facing off against 6 Charlans. It's like, that's Earth lost because 1, they had fewer ships, and 2, all of their ships were worse than the Charlan. And in fact, if you look at the fluff of the Earth Minbari War, the Minbari realized that they were they overmatched the Earth Alliance so much that they decided they didn't need the rest of the fleet. They literally only sent their Charlans. I think that might possibly be a budgeting issue in terms of visual effects, but it still fits the Minbari philosophy.
I hate when your war plans are just disrupted by visual effects budgets.
I know, it's terrible. So their points are a limiting factor because, again, that Charlan weighs in at 1,800 points. So that's double the cost of an Omega, almost 3 times the cost of a Hyperion, 3 times the cost of a Jaquan. So these are very expensive units. So that's what makes them... they can be unforgiving for new players because of that. Because you look at this, go, oh man, I have all this firepower, I have a jammer, things like that, and they go, you can't touch me. And then if you go charging into the battle, next thing you know, you get mobbed by literally everything, and you die. So they require some patience. They require understanding what you're doing and trying to kind of pick your battles. I think the other limiting factor for the Minbari, if you can see those arcs, as I'm highlighting the fusion cannons, you don't see a whole lot of overlap with those arcs. They have fusion cannons. They cover all regions, but they don't overlap with each other a whole lot. And that can become a problem later in a match. So if you've lost a side or you're taking a lot of damage, if you lose your starboard side, you don't have a whole lot of that leaves a big gaping hole that is not covered by any weapons on the aft or forward structures. And so that can be a liability for the Minbari later in a match.
So you need support ships. Bring on the Toyota.
The Toyota.
My other ship is a Toyota. I know it's a Torofa, but I always call it a Toyota in my head. This is a poor man's White Star. When you have, as Jeff said, these are expensive ships, and sometimes you make a fleet and then you go like, damn, I only have 600 points left. And what do I buy with 600 points in a Minbari fleet? Not much, because you don't have choices or options. I mean, a White Star is 750, I guess. So you're down to a medium ship, and this Toyota assault frigate is a medium ship, and it's a pretty good one. It's fairly cheap for Minbari standards, and it has a jammer, like all of them, so it's nearly impossible to hit. It's fairly maneuverable. It has an electro pulse gun in the front that you can shut off for extra power, because I don't think
The extra power gun.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to shoot it at much else. You have a number of fusion cannons, which are always great, but you have 2 heavy hitters. This has 2 molecular disruptors, which do a fuckload, sorry for my language, a ton load of damage. So if you get close and you ignore the Toyota, it rents you a new one. So that's not good. So that's everything I have to say about this one, by the way.
Yeah, I think that's another. Fred, you hit a good point about the Minbari, is that they don't have a lot of small units to fill in kind of those small point totals, things like that. And so the Taratha, literally, it's an assault frigate, so it's designed to actually bring troops and things like that. So it has its disadvantages, and so it's tough to kind of fill in small points. But again, if this thing can get into position, it's definitely going to let you know it has arrived. Okay, so do you want me to do the White Star or the Niles?
Let's go with the White Star.
Okay. The White Star. Outside of the Star Fury, the White Star is probably the most recognizable unit from Babylon 5, the entire show. It becomes the hero ship throughout much of the series. It features extremely prominently throughout the show, particularly in the latter years, and it has an absolutely well-deserved reputation on the board. The White Star is among the young races, so as long as you're not counting the first ones, this is the best medium combat ship in the entire game. Nothing holds a candle to it. There's no way that anything else can defeat this in terms of which one is the best of the small ships. What makes it that way? There's a couple of things. Obviously, the jammer helps. Okay, yes. I mean, to make it so you can't lock on, that always is going to hurt you. Sensors. Okay, yeah, it has the number of sensors that this small ship carries is the equivalent to the Oracle Scout that we just saw at the beginning of this conversation. It has shields. Now, shields don't operate in Babylon 5 like Star Trek. They are designed they lower your profile and they will absorb a little bit of damage. So now you have a jammer, strong sensors, and yet another device that is going to make it harder to hit. On top of that, now this is something we don't need to talk too much about, but the White Star in the lore is derived from Vorlon technology. So it's a merger of Minbari and Vorlon technology. So it has the ability to learn from the hits it takes. So if you damage it, it can then improve its armor against that class of weapon. Not by much, but a 1-point armor boost is always nice. And this can make the White Star very, very difficult to engage by one of the only units that can catch it, which is fighters. Because if the fighter can't get to point-blank range and get underneath the shields, the fighter damage is being absorbed by the shields. It's being absorbed by the armor. It's being absorbed by the adaptive armor. So I've literally seen light fighters and small, even medium fighters go up, fire full volleys into a White Star, and it literally bounces these shots completely off. So that is a massive strength. Now, we can talk about the firepower of the White Star. It has 4 of these molecular pulsars. Very, very potent, very, very powerful. And also an improved neutron laser. So great range, great firepower. But what I would say what makes the White Star so devastating is its maneuverability. It has just as much thrust as a Thentis, great maneuverability. It has the same gravitic drive and things like that. The White Star, because it has a jammer and shields and such a huge sensor profile, it is able to choose the point of an engagement where it wants to engage and where it wants to shoot you. If the situation is unfavorable, it has the ability to quickly change course, move behind an asteroid, or at least put as much distance as possible between it and the target. So that's what makes because it can choose the point and location at which to shoot you, it makes all of its weaponry that much better. Its only drawback is that it has a large power deficit. It just has a lot of systems on it. It's tough to power. One option is you can depower the jammer because that's the same amount of usage. I've seen that used. You can do that to good effect at longer range because you can. It's difficult to lock on. Even if you can lock on, it's difficult to reach out and hit a small vessel from range. Or in many cases, at long range, generally players will keep the laser powered because it takes 3 turns to charge and fire that on the first turn or first couple of turns, and then leave the pulsars deactivated, and then it will deactivate the laser and switch over to pulsars. That's going to be kind of tactically dependent on what's going on. If you're facing a lot of fighters, you're probably going to keep the pulsars active. But if you think you can kind of stay at range, you'll probably keep sniping with the improved neutron laser. But really, I think it's the combination.
And if you're fighting against the shadows, because they're first ones an ancient race, they'd ignore the jammer anyway, so you would just turn the jammer off in that case.
Yes, absolutely. Because of the maneuverability, because of the type of weaponry it has, the White Star is fantastic. In fact, it costs more than the Jaquan cruiser that we talked about earlier. But it is worth all those points. It is probably one of the few things that's out there that you can say, yeah, I mean, with those points, it can punch well above its size class. It is exceedingly capable in what it does. Its one drawback is that if you do maneuver badly with it and put it into a bad position, it can be taken out pretty effectively. Fighters are definitely a danger for this unit, so you want to make sure you keep fighters off of your aft section so that they can't take out your thrusters or things like that.
Okay, nails.
And there you go.
So, these little buggers, the Nyal Heavy Fighter, this thing is the bane of most races' existence because it has the maneuverability of any of the fighters. It has a gravitic drive, which means it can pivot, it can turn, it can do anything it wants to. It's got three guns. 3 guns. So, you look at the Narn Frazi and its firepower. Well, you take a look at this thing with its 3 light fusion guns. Well, it's going to do a whole lot of damage. And beyond that, making it even harder to hurt is the fact that it comes equipped with that Telltale Minbari jammer. These things are mean. They hurt, they hit hard, and frankly, you sleep on them at your own risk. Their only downside, much like everything else on the Minbari, is they are expensive. And, you have to lay on your stomach to use it, but you're not flying it in the game. So, that should help at least.
I think it's the second most expensive fighter. The Vri Tim is 110. This is 106, I think.
Oh. And we're not counting things like the Sky Serpent, are we?
Nah, that's not a fighter.
You can make the small ship. You can actually make the only fighter that commonly available fighter that you can make more expensive than this one is the Earth Alliance Thunderbolt. But the only way you can do that is you buy the Thunderbolt, you give it an optional navigator, and you load it up with 6 missiles, and then that can make it like 130 some odd points. But yeah, this thing is an absolute beast. This fighter, we talked about how the Star Fury is a potent fighter. It has durability, firepower, maneuverability, and it takes typically 2 Star Furies to engage 1 Nile effectively.
Yeah, forget centuries. I mean, you're not denting it. Forget it.
Yeah. And you can see there, if you look on just below the name, 2 lines down, it says armor. It has 4 armor all across.
Yeah.
So that is going to be bouncing a lot of damage off of it.
If you got a light fighter and it does not have a hard-hitting weapon, you're not even going to hurt this thing.
Nope.
But that does bring us back to kind of the primary liability for the Minbari fleet is the cost. You absolutely get your points out of this fighter. No question about it. The problem is in a fair fight, in an even points match, you're always going to be fighting outnumbered against enemy fighters and things like that. So the Nile has to fulfill many roles within the Minbari fleet. It's a light unit. It's the maneuverable unit. It has to react to enemy forces. It has to prevent enemy fighters from getting close. It also has to go on the offensive. So that's a lot for it to do in any given engagement, but it can do it. But you have to be careful. You don't want to accidentally, again, you don't want to think, oh, I'm durable, I'm huge, armor and things like that, and go to point blank range on well-armed unit, because at point-blank range, a well-armed Earth Alliance unit can destroy a lot of these fighters very quickly. So it takes some, like everything with the Minbari, they take a little bit more skill. They're a little bit tougher for a new player to get involved with, but they are very rewarding once you understand how their systems work together. They can be a very very potent force to fly, and you can have a lot of success with them.
Unfortunately for us, we have a member of the crew that is really good with them.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are going on 1 hour and 20 minutes. I think, Tom, it's time to send us off, man.
I think so too. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been our honor to explore the ships of the Big Four with you. There's a whole lot more out there, and maybe we'll do episodes that are Fleet Faction specific at some point. But for now, thank you so much for joining us. It has been wonderful, and we will see you next time.
All right. See you.
Have a good one. Take care. It's been fun.
Starfuries are ugly. Bye-bye.